I'm also going to ask if you feel comfortable speaking up today. When we get to that part, you feel free to share your insights and perspectives as well. This is an opportunity for us to collectively come together and discuss what's moving forward, the coalition. So as I get us started, I'm going to go through today's agenda. We're going to try and get out of here around 7:15, and I will walk you through. I'm also going to allow for Steve Lewis to introduce himself as well. He is going to be my co-facilitator for today's conversation. Steve, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, thanks, Chris, and welcome everyone, and good evening as we continue down this path. I'm a resident. I live on New York Drive, west of Lake, between Lake and El Molino. We were fortunate to not lose our home, but neighbors just across the street did, all three and two others down the block. So very personal, stepping out of the house and seeing the mountain on fire was like nothing else. Anyway, we all know the story. We're here because we all care deeply about what lies ahead for Altadena. Our ability to marshal resources and to create a portal to share the knowledge and information with residents who are currently being flooded with information from all corners. And we, as we represent ourselves, the culturally competent with shared lived experiences that allow us to listen well with empathy and compassion to our resident neighbors, and therefore build some trust and be available to assist as they try to make decisions that are in their true best interests. So that's kind of what the big picture is. I think you all have joined us before, know that we're in three buckets: the history and cultural preservation bucket, the community engagement bucket, and then the technical rebuild bucket. Acknowledging that there are overlaps between them, we are moving ourselves forward from sort of theory to reality. And the only last thing I want to say, Chris, is that is a metaphor. I came up with it. I don't think I'm the only one. But right now, all of the organizations are like lined up at the starting blocks, running a 100-yard dash. We're each in our own lane. We're speeding down those lanes, trying to get to some kind of a finish line. Personally ran the 40 relay, and I prefer the relay model, where each of us has a mission. We carry that baton forward. We pass it to the next person in that relay, and together we are efficient and we get to the finish line and we win. So keeping that in mind, those on the call who are parts of other groups, we really do need to sort of bring everybody together, and Saturday is a great opportunity for some of that to happen.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Steve. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Again, it's a pleasure seeing many of you all on the call. We're going to walk through a little bit. I'm going to give you all a little bit of a backstory for those who are new to the call, may not know who SoCal NOMA is. Just let me know. Give me a thumbs up when you see my screen.
You're good.
All right. Thank you so much. So as many of you all know, Rebuild Readiness Package, Rebuild Coalition, Altadena Rebuild Coalition. So SoCal NOMA, for those who don't know, the Southern California chapter of the National Organization of Minority Architects, which Steve was the national and local president of and several years ago, is a organization that was founded for Black and Brown and minority architects who make up a small percentage of the profession. Currently, only about 2% of all architects are Black, and even more dismal than that, about 0.3 or around 400 to 500 are Black women. So we are in a profession like many others that does not have a representation, have the stewardship, and also have the insights of culture, of competency, as Stephen spoke about, but also the ability to hear and listen and design, which is a skill set that is not is taught. It's something that is culturally, I think, relevant, but also is very much an indigenous practice from all the different lands and respective cultures and diasporas that we come from. So with that being said, today we want to unearth that in our conversation. So for today, we will have 5 different kind of objects or things that we'll kind of just cover. We'll try to get off in about an hour. Why are we here today? I think Steve just covered that really beautifully. We're going to go through just a quick little meditation and share a community agreement for today's conversation. We'll then have our organizers and residents who are guests on today's call for the first time introduce themselves. I'll call you all one by one. We'll talk about the rebuild process and what is currently existing in the approach from the coalition, and then we'll open it to just conversation. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to start us off with a grounding quote. So I'm going to read this, and then we're all going to stretch and take a deep breath because I think it's important for us to acknowledge where we're at. So for those who don't know, Adrienne Me Brown is the author of Emergent Strategies. She's an incredibly powerful woman in the work she does. And she says, do you already know that your existence, who and how you are, is in of itself a contribution to the people and the place around you? Not after or because you do some particular thing, but simply the miracle of your life, and that the people around you and the places have contributions as well. Do you understand that your quality of life and your survival are tied to how authentic and generous the connections are between you and the people and the place you live with and in? So I just want everyone to just kind of take a deep breath. Just stretch your hands out. If you can, just follow me. And take a deep breath in. 1, 2, 3. Take that out. One more time. Let's do that again. 1, 2, 3. And one more time. Let's do that one more time. If you want to stand up and really shake that out. 1, 2, 3. Breathe. Now let it out real loud. All right. I say that because we've all been working today and doing different various things and dealing with different people in our lives. So let's just shed that so we can receive what's going to come in this call today. In addition to that, I just want to give a cultural acknowledgement. The Los Angeles Basin is home to the unceded lands of the Tonga Galliano people and the rich, resilient cultures of Black and Brown people within the Latina and Black diaspora communities. We celebrate the diversity of intersectional identities present within the minds, bodies of historically marginalized communities throughout South LA, all of LA, Altadena, as we create a boundless future. So,
Chris, if I may, I'm sorry, if I may just interrupt on that point. I asked two Native American architect friends of mine from Albuquerque and from Mexico how they honor the land acknowledgements. And I think what I learned is something I like to share, and I think we should do this. We invite ancestors to join us for this meeting. I think that's powerful and crosses over ethnic and racial lines because I think we can all conjure our ancestors and bring them to the fore. We need them right now.
Thank you, Steve. So taking that energy with us, let's complete this community agreement. This is kind of how we'll create a safe space for everyone today. So if you agree with these as I go through, just give me a thumbs up or say yes if you're off camera and you can't be on camera right now. So we'll just go through this real quick. Number one, each person's perspective is valued. You all agree with that? Give me a thumbs up or
yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Amazing. Share the mic and the stage.
Yes.
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 That's right. Number three, honor confidentiality. Share the lessons, not the stories, unless given permission.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Number four, reach for curiosity, not judgment.
Yes.
Yes. Gabrielle.
Yes.
Number five, participate authentically.
Yes.
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 And last but not least, but most important, take care of yourself first.
Yes.
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 Amazing. Amazing. All right. I'm going to stop
Chris.
sharing my screen right then and there because that wraps that section of our conversation up. So without further ado, we'll kind of carry on here. And I want to allow for our guests who are residents and also organizers and community-based groups to introduce themselves. So I'll call you out. If I don't quite see you on here and I missed you, I apologize. But we'll start off with Kalia.
Dang, I knew I was gonna be first. Hi everyone. Thanks for having me. My name's Kayla Mathis. My family's been residents of Altadena in Northwest Pasadena. Every time I say I'm from there, I'm always specific about Northwest Pasadena and West Altadena. But it's that my family's been living there on both sides since like the 1960s. It's really close to my heart. In our family, we lost 5 homes, 5 to 6 homes, and we also lost a loved one as well. So this is like really, this work is important to me. I currently live in the Bay Area, moved up here for college, but I always go back and forth. So just not having like a family home or our usual family home to like go back home to visit to is really rough. I do a lot of community organizing in the Bay Area. So when everything went down, I just really wanted to like figure out ways to support the community that I come from, that raised me, that raised my family. And I just wanted to find somebody I can work with and organize with and work with the people. But I had so much struggle because there was so many different organizations popping up, but I got the chance to meet Ashley, and Ashley connected me with Taylor and Jasmine, and we've been working and doing Altadena Rising together and trying to figure out ways to bring different organizers together in one space so we can support each other and also support community. And yeah, thank you for having me. Sorry, I was a little long-winded.
Thank you, Kayla. Appreciate that. And again, as I've told you when we first met, sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to Ash and Taylor.
Hey everybody, thank you, Kayla. So lovely to see you as usual. And hey, Jeffrey, what's up? See you in the room. Just want to say hi. Thank you, Chris, and everybody here tonight. Yes, so Taylor, myself, Kayla, and another one of our friends, Jasmine, all from Pasadena, Altadena, all have deep roots, generations, grew up here, have just so many stories, and you know, this has been devastating for all of us. Right now, obviously, there's a lot of people that are still heartbroken and going through the motions, and also are being, you know, piled with paperwork and all those things. So what we want to do with Altadena Rising is kind of be like the eyes and ears for people that may necessarily not be able to make those moves right now. So we've been in a lot of Zoom meetings. We've been speaking directly with families on a daily basis, helping as much as we can, getting the immediate needs, but also trying to be in spaces where we're educated on what kind of moves are happening and how we can get that information to our families in various different ways. So as Kayla said, like something that allows us to kind of have eyes everywhere is being in all of those meetings, doing all of those different things with the focus of serving Black and Brown families. So that's kind of like where we start. And our mission is just ensuring the need of every impacted family, that every impacted family is met. Each organization that we've met with, they all have a different kind of route of doing things, but their goal seems somewhat similar. So we're trying to empower those organizations because people are proud of the things that they've made through this, but how do we kind of stay on track and make sure that everyone is accounted for in the process of everyone doing all this building? So yeah, that's some of the work that we've been up to, and yeah, anything else, we'll get into that later. Go ahead, Taylor.
Thanks, everyone. Really glad to be here. Thank you, Chris.
Of course. Thanks, Taylor. Let's pass it off to Jeff.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Jeffrey Lopez, and my wife's family has been in Altadena for 25 years up in the Meadows. And after the fire, I started Authentic Altadena, which is basically a local media hub for Altadena, because I noticed that Altadena didn't have a media hub. Everything that was being posted online was from somewhere else. So my main goal is to create a local hub for Altadena by Altadena. And education is really our main focus right now. We're sharing resources and information to help people learn what they need in order to actually get through this rebuild process. So that's our main focus. And my background is in business and in marketing and sales and team building. So I want to bring that aspect to the community and really help start bringing the teams together and building. And I'll keep it short and sweet with all that. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. And I believe that is everyone who made it to today's call. I also see a client I just met, Egerton, hello. I also see Marielle, who I've met, who's been on the calls, who's also, I know, a resident of Altadena. Hello, hello. Welcome both of you all to speak up as we get through this conversation about anything you feel comfortable sharing.
Chris, I'd also like to acknowledge Amparo Chavez Gonzalez, who is with us tonight from UCLA, who has been busily applying for grants, some of which will be on our behalf. And we got the first one in last night, I think. Amparo, welcome.
Thank you, everyone. We actually got another one in today, so that'll be 2. We're trying. We're going to milk the university for what we need for our communities.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Marielle, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I just want to share and thank you, Christopher, for letting me know about this group back when we went to the panel that you were on. Kind of similar to Kayla, the Burrell family, I believe in this fire probably lost close to 6 to 7 homes. We've been in those Altadena Hills for over 60 years. As I mentioned in the other calls that we had, I believe, maybe 2 weeks ago, we lost one family church burnt completely down to the ground. That was Abounding Grace. And then Hillside Tabernacle, which is also on Fair Oaks, half of it got burned. My family, my children and I's home got burned. I do thank God because we were able to make it out with our lives and the clothes on our back. We have neighbors across the street who didn't get the evacuation text. They didn't get any of that. And we're literally waking up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. with everything on fire around them, needing to flee from their homes. So I'm so thankful that that wasn't us. I would love to see Altadena being rebuilt, but better than what we had before. We did have a big, strong sense of community. As I said before, firmly rooted in God and a very close-knit community. And throughout these different calls, like we heard of different sustainable ways that we can help people to rebuild their homes, fireproofing or being able to, recycle water, whatever it is. And also acknowledging a lot of the residents were elderly. So a lot of them don't have access to the Zooms or the links. They're not really computer savvy. So a lot of them are outside of the curve and means of getting paperwork in, of receiving the help that they need. So even in my own family, a lot of them, when I talk to them on the phone, they sound hopeless. And so if we could, I did let them know about the meeting on Saturday, but if we could help those to be able to get past the curve and to know that there is hope in rebuilding. You do have help with architects and city planners and contractors and help through insurance and FEMA and debris removal, and the Corps of Engineers, all of that, to be able to help them through that. That would be amazing because it would help them to say no to these offers of, take 500K now and walk away from your property. That would help them to overcome that if they knew that there was like steps to moving forward. So that's it. Thank you for having me. I do look forward to meeting y'all again in person on Saturday.
Thanks for sharing, Marielle. Really appreciate that. And thanks for sharing that. It's hard to put words into what loss really is, but I really appreciate y'all being vulnerable and sharing that with us. And we're all here to figure out what that looks like. And before I kind of share my screen again, is there anyone else who's a resident or an organizer or has a business or any connection with Altadena who wants to share a similar story or share anything before we kind of jump forward? Just want to kind of create space for folks.
Yeah, this is Shagun. I don't know if you can hear me.
Go ahead, Shagun.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. We live on, on Fair Oaks. We've been there for almost 30 years. And when we left, we were thinking, we're gonna come back like in a couple of days. I got a hotel for 2 days just because, I think it's fire that they will take care of it. So finding out about, within the first 16 hours of leaving and receiving an image from my neighbor who got it, that everything was nothing but rubbish. A little bit of a small personal story. It's both funny and interesting at the same time. I couldn't find my car keys on the way out. One of the cars. And we had to just made a quiet decision, like, you know what? It's just a car. Leave it and just go. So that's why one of our cars was burnt with We defined, we looked for it for like 30 minutes. For whatever reason, we couldn't find the key in a house that is not a mansion.
Was it the Prius
So
or the BMW?
it was the BMW. So,
Oh.
so it's gone. You know, and you know, Steve knows me. I kept it because I don't want to pay car notes or lease notes anymore because the mileage was low. So, so there goes that plan. But having said that, I take a little bit from the spirit of the younger people that spoke earlier. And I think people know this. Land is a commodity that they don't make anymore. And my hope is that as we try to support each other and assist people, uh, people at least wait a little bit before they decide what they want to do with their own property as they learn more about the process. Because it's an emotional time and there's an opportunity cost in a rush decision without having all the facts. I'm a little fortunate that part of my value in this group is that I have some community ability. I have access to some information in terms of what is out there. And I know how to navigate my way through the public process. And we can support some of the elderly through the process if they need information and support. And even some of them have, like some of the young people, grandkids or relatives out of town. I will encourage us to add that information to any intake form so that there's at least somebody that can receive information on their behalf. I do think that, you know, kind of in closing for me, my wife jokes and asks, "Are you in denial about what happened?" Because sometimes I just laugh, and I have decided that I've gone through a form of acceptance that I did not do anything to contribute to what happened. But by the grace of God, I can do something about what's going to happen next without knowing the final outcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Sugu. That was beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. I love my black and brown folks. We just brought God into the conversation. I love that. For the culture. Anyone else want to share before we kind of talk about a little bit more about the coalition and just some of the things that are going on? And this is especially for our guests today who aren't quite up to speed. Anyone else who'd like to share? Okay. All right, I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to walk through a little bit what the coalition is up to, and then we're going to open up the discussion centering our guests today and folks who have honestly just spoken up. And for other coalition members who have been a part of the process, if you want to kind of jump in with me, that's great, Steve or Josh or Gabrielle, Winston, or Leatrice, I'd appreciate that. So right now, are y'all seeing my screen?
It's coming up. Not there yet. There it is.
Awesome. And is this legible for everyone? Do I need to zoom in?
Could you zoom in, please?
Very tight, very tiny.
All right, I got the wide screen. Is that better?
Well, you need to zoom in to one page because it's
All right,
showing
well,
the three.
it's gonna be kind of hard to do that, but this is probably the closest I could get. So I'll read it through for folks.
Okay.
So the organization's structure and mission, you know, the major focus is the coalition is divided into three groups: community engagement, cultural preservation, and historical significance. And part of the reason why the coalition has been divided into those three sections is to really acknowledge the deep roots and cultures of Altadena, while also making sure that we understand that there's a process of rebuilding and thinking about what the future of the town looks like. So I'll just go through what these three looks like, and then we'll talk about the diagram on the right. Cultural and cultural preservation, historical significance. We are dedicated to creating awareness and promoting the support of this community's effort, and activities include conducting research on the rich history of Altadena. So that includes what will happen on Saturdays, oral and visual stories that folks feel comfortable sharing, and making sure that These stories aren't lost in the process of everything moving forward. Creating and distributing educational material that's physical and digital. So guides, history about past architecture, um, you know, cultural asset maps, that kind of thing. Promoting awareness for other types of organization and media outlets, and a documentary on Charles Bryant rebuild as part of the thought here and many other things. The other thing I'll also add to that is acknowledging the land that we're on and the deep indigenous traditional ecological knowledge. That's also a part of that as well. And then community engagement, the second branch, um, we are dedicated to supporting the Altadena community by being active through listening, understanding needs, supporting those needs, as well as those that may not be aware of through our knowledge and expertise. This includes attending in-person meetings, hosting community workshops, as we're doing some Saturday, and sharing and distributing materials produced by the Rebuild community. So this is really the group of folks that are meant to be kind of the eyes and ears, and also organizing events to make sure that the information that the group is developing and others are creating is being distributed into the community. And lastly, Rebuild, which is one of the most important ones. We are dedicated to supporting the rebuild of Altadena by sharing fire rebuild knowledge, resources, and connecting the community design and construction services. This includes the distribution of a fire rebuild guide and timeline. Some of you all have seen a version of that that's distributed by my team. That is also a part of this process. A design guide that will basically take the information that the community engagement and cultural and historical group are gathering about what is the Black home, what is the brown home, what is the local ecological traditional knowledge that we need to do to be better stewards of our land, to ensure that we are protecting our land, but also protecting our homes and making sure that they're resilient, but also thriving at the same time. Sharing relevant information to homeowners, connecting residents with minority design and construction firms and contractors, and collaborating with trade and AEC organizations, especially as we get closer to a year from now or two, where folks are actually actively in rebuild and need the expertise from folks who are able to lend it. So what does that all look like in diagram form? It looks like what's happening here. Some of the folks you see at the bottom are folks who are leading these groups. But the cultural preservation of historical significance is really important for the research and education. I think part of what we even heard in today's story is about folks and their family histories, generations on generations on generations. In many indigenous cultures, they talk about the seventh generation principle. The decisions and the experiences that we have today impact seventh generations from now. So as we look towards rebuilding and we look towards thinking about our cultures in our future, thinking about what cultures we need to make sure that we protect and keep, and those that need to be amplified that have not been amplified in the past, such as our indigenous knowledge of our land. Because we are constantly right now, as climate change continues to be something that we understand and experience, learning and being more knowledgeable about that will be a powerful thing for all of us. Community engagement, understanding and learning, informing, and then lastly, the rebuild, which is the part that I think is most daunting for folks, is like, what is this process? What does it look like? I think a lot of folks, when they hear rebuild, there's many different ways to do it. I mean, there's any way from hiring your own designer and architect, having, the coalition support in the ways that can, and through the design professionals that are here. It looks like even Habitat for Humanity, who has their own set of programs to help and support folks. Me and Steve actually today, we're actually at the one-stop Altadena kind of FEMA and rebuild support down in downtown Altadena, talking to the planning and fire and safety and building code experts, and trying to get insights into what does the process look like for permitting, which is 30 days expedited for 110% within your building, and 60 days, potentially 30 to 60 days for anything that's larger than that. And then we all know that that is a ballpark range. The county has said that they've hired more assessors and plan reviewers to help facilitate this process. But lo and behold, folks have already submitted permits. So, and as also, there's also 17 properties that are online on Zillow for sale. And this kind of goes back to Altadena not for sale. there are going to be factors outside of everyone's control, but when we all bring our groups together to kind of speak up and share that knowledge, that is important, because the bigger conversation that not a lot of folks are having, and what was shared, what's happening in Maui, as you all know, have had their own troubles with wildfires, is Maui essentially developed a quote unquote, and I'll strike a line through the term, I'm going to use master plan or strategic plan for the town, which many of the residents were essentially helped to drive and were behind. Now, one of the things that I'll say, we all know that fires happened about 2 or more years ago, and only 3 houses have been built, which sounds sad. However, there's a plan that everybody's buying into. So part of that is, what is the plan that we all are buying into that is beyond any one of us as individuals, but really holds accountable federal representatives, congressional representatives of our local districts, the county, the town council, and et cetera, et cetera. So without that being said, that is where the coalition is. If I zoom out, I'll kind of just show all the work that everyone's been kind of doing, which is putting together guides and understandings of what the roadmap is for the future. This is a very long process that we're going to undertake when it talks about construction. I'll just kind of zoom into here a little bit, if my computer will allow me, to an original document that we put together. Because today, what we really want to focus on is step 0. Sorry, it's taking a little longer. And I think many of you all have heard me say this in the past. Step 0 is really understanding how we got here, what has occurred, and ultimately, what do we think is next in order to begin to rebuild, but also think of, as Marielle said, a better Altadena that has a lot of its strong roots and whatnot. This is not going to allow me to get into it for whatever reason, because it's probably too small. But
I've also been talking about step 0 in a slightly different context, and that is that as all of these resources mount at the perimeter of the community trying to get in and offer, I've been saying my step 0 is, let's stabilize the patient before we try to administer the treatment. That is to take care of the community and be there as an ear of empathy and compassion, with no expectations that people are going to want to receive what you're trying to offer at this moment. Each case being individual and separate, but approaching it with a sort of sensitivity to know when the right time is to begin to offer technical solutions.
Thanks, Steve. I think that wraps up pretty much the goals right now, where the coalition is for everyone who's kind of new to the process. Saturday's event is really the first one in which we're looking to collaborate and connect with residents, organizers, community groups, kind of talk about where everyone is. We will have, and I don't know if anyone from the Rebuild team is here, we will have some Rebuild community folks who are creating essentially a sign up of somebody in the Rebuild group can talk to us a little bit better than me. So I don't know if anyone from the Rebuild group is here. But the Rebuild team,
I'll speak to Rebuild.
Go ahead, Leatrice.
So I'm Leatrice Harris, coalition leader, and administrator. And informing this, what we really wanted to do was make sure that the community knew that we were behind every stage of this process. We have pretty much 6 steps to it. Like we are saying, we're at step 0, but 5 and 6 are all about rebuilding your house or business or property in some form or another. And what we wanted to make sure that the community knew is that we are here. We are experts and professionals. This is what we do every day in our business lives. And the entire rebuild process, we are familiar with, and we can offer that, and we'll offer that to the community. And one of the things that we want to begin to offer is help and support through the debris process. This is the first step. You don't get to actually rebuilding until they clear your lot. And as we were hearing from the county and how they want to do this with the Army Corps of Engineers and the 12 plus page application you have to fill out to just say you want to be in. As the residents have shared with us, there are a lot of people that don't understand that process, and we will be the go-to organization for them to come to and find out what those things mean in that 12 plus page application. And we are going to provide what we are calling a rebuild readiness package. This is a beginning package that will help them walk through that process. And once they do, and they have all of the components, because there are components in that application that lay people have no idea. They don't know what the block plan is and this plot plan and all of those things. And that's where we come in, and we're going to offer that to the community for free and set them up for success. And they will then move into the actual rebuild process, where we will design match them with a professional, a Black or brown or some kind of wonderful person from our group or beyond that can help walk them through. I mean, literally holding their hand through this process. And they will begin the rebuild and design process. And that is what the rebuild committee will offer. They will also offer help through the insurance process, permitting, design, and construction. And we have professionals from all of those areas available through workshops and seminars to help them understand and move through all of those processes. And we will start that on Saturday. We are taking our intake document. And so anybody who comes on Saturday after they share their story, and we love and encourage them through this process, they can sign up for the rebuild readiness package.
Awesome. Thanks, Elitris. That is really important information. So for those who don't know about the event, I think we'll also have probably an online sign up as well for those who maybe can't make it. Is that true, Elitris?
Yes, we will.
Okay. So we're gonna open it up to our now discussion part of today's conversation. I was gonna share my screen, but I don't know. I'm trying to. Let me just do it. Whatever. Let me just do it. This is just the drawing that we were showing you. I believe Matt just dropped it in the chat. Let me know if y'all can see it. I'll just kind of quickly speak to it. I just want to shout out my team members, Lauren and Jonathan, for helping to kind of put the first version of this together. It's kind of evolved since then. But as Steve said, step 0, stabilizing where we're at now. 1, what are the options? Do you rebuild? How much support is your insurance giving you? Relocate? LA County, looking at your ordinance. There's many things that come a part of the process, including how much bigger you might make your home if you decide to go for that. It's important to move at your own pace. Site remediation has been talked about, making sure that you got that signed up. And it's important for folks who have homes there. It's very important that you also talk to your neighbors if you have their numbers. The more folks y'all get signed up collectively, the more likely that you're going to come out and do them together. Because the reality is that like EVA is not going to want to go to one house over here, one house over here, one house over here. They're going to want to do it collectively. So if y'all all are signed up together, there's a more likelihood that you get it sooner rather than later. So some coordination there is going to be helpful. Finding your project team, architects, folks who are here who could support you, getting the information you'll get from here to support you through the process. There's other avenues, and there'll be other programs that likely between now and a year from now that will help be supportive of those who are looking to rebuild. Design and technical drawings. You will go through conceptual phase, design development, and then detailed drawings. There's also the opportunity to potentially already have pre-approved plans, but that will also need to be specified to your specific property that you own, where your home is. And then lastly, permitting, which we talked about, having someone submit those drawings. And then lastly, construction. So this is a very high level overview of that process for those who are unfamiliar. So Now what we'll do is we will kind of open it up to a discussion with our guest for today. And, this is an open discussion really for anyone with a series of conversations. There's already been some things that have been shared. So I'm going to kind of just go into it a little bit here. And I'm just going to start off with our organizers on the call and residents. So I'm going to say 2 questions here, and then feel free to jump in wherever y'all feel comfortable. First one is, and I think for the folks at Altadena Rising, you've already shared some stuff, but if y'all can elaborate, that'd be great, as you kind of mentioned, Ash. What efforts is your organization leading to support those impacted by the Eaton fire, and how do you think designers, architects, and others can help collaborate with you? We'll start there.
All right, we're gonna have Taylor answer this one. Go
Hey.
ahead.
Yeah, I think what you guys are putting together is really incredible. First and foremost, thank you so much. I think the main thing that's coming up for us right now is we have a lot of families that are at different stages of the process, as you can imagine. Some who are still figuring out where they're going to sleep this week, all the way up to people who are very ready for the rebuild and everything that comes with it. And so as we continue to work closely with families and kind of walk through those different scenarios and different facets of life, I think the first thing is that we just want to ask that y'all stay close and stay flexible and stay ready. I'm curious to know about how we may bring families into this information kind of like on a rolling or an ongoing basis. I know a lot of people are displaced and scattered all over the world actually after the fire. And so thinking about ways to just kind of keep this information front and center while being flexible around the range of realities and situations and scenarios that families are finding themselves in, knowing that the scenario that they find themselves in this week may change next week. And that's part of the reason why we're doing this work, is because we know that it keeps evolving, and to also stay very close to solid resources like this group that can hopefully continue to be relied on as needs change and situations change. And so that's just my one kind of ask to the group. But I think this is a phenomenal resource. I love how you've laid it out. We're just excited to keep working together. Thank you for this.
Thanks, Taylor. All right, anyone else want to speak to that before we jump to... All right, go for it, Jeff.
So I just wanted to jump in really quick, and because what Taylor was talking about as far as people being displaced and just having to take care of the more pressing priorities, for their day-to-day stuff. That's one of the biggest reasons why I started the YouTube channel, is because I'm learning more and more that if we just have things available for people, like if you could just, like, let's say you record a 3-minute video just giving an idea of what you can do to help people, you send it to me and I post it on the YouTube and I share it with a bunch of people. Now it doesn't matter if you only have time at midnight to check something out. You just go on your phone real quick, hit the link, and now you've got the info. And you can share it with other people that need it too. Because the main reason I did this is because I know how much time and effort it takes for the people on the ground to do things. And while I want them to focus on what they're doing and give me the info that's important, and I will share it with everyone else while the people on the ground are doing the important work. Like, I'm trying to get a 24/7 information hub for people, so when they do have the time, just go on it really quick and learn what you need to learn about it.
Yeah, Jeff, can you share yeah.
Okay, I'll put it up in a second.
Thanks, Jeff. Gabrielle?
Yeah, I just want to ask Jeff a question. I think that's a great idea. How are you informing the community members that it exists, that the YouTube exists?
So at the moment,
YouTube channel.
I've been talking to a lot of organization leaders that are the people who are dispensing information to people, and they're the ones getting it out to everyone while I'm working on getting the content ready. So I've already been working with teams, and that's why I talked to Chris about this, because I saw that you guys had some really good things going and amazing information, which is what I've learned is as soon as I learn that it's possible, the fear starts going away. And that's why I want to get this info out to people as quickly as possible, because once they see that it's possible, that anxiety slows down. Even if it's only for just a second, it gives us that second to breathe. And knowing that there's a hub where I can just go to whenever I want to look for information, that's another big reason why I'm talking to as many organizations as possible and just say, look, I don't need to interview you, just turn your camera on, record a video, and send it to me. I'll take care of the rest. I'll distribute it. I'll get it to the people that need it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh yeah, I need to put the link. Give me a sec.
If I could inject a few things that we haven't really touched upon, and they're just subjects that I want to throw out. One is the prospect of installing ADUs ahead of rebuilding the primary house based on people's insurance results. The people who are greatest risk are those who are underinsured or uninsured, and the renters who made up a good part of our community. I don't know that we've addressed a safety net for those individuals, or whether they are just SOL and moving on to the next place they can rent. I know that there were some landlords that were trying to still collect rent without cleaning their houses sufficiently and trying to demand that their tenants come back in and pay. So there's a lot going on out there in the rental world that I think we need to pay attention to. There's also these other groups like Foothill Catalog that are moving forward with standardized plans that attempt to honor the basic spirit of Altadena homes, both physically and just in terms of the sizes, to make them perhaps permittable in advance by the county. And I don't know, you young people don't know about the Sears catalog, but they used to sell houses out of a Sears catalog. You could pick the house, it gets flat packed to your place, and they build it, they erect it in a day. Well, you know, similarly, any of these pre-approved plans, which Foothill Catalog and other organizations are trying to advance, become options as well for those who are not inclined to hire an architect and a builder to replace what they lost.
Thanks, Steve. We'll transition the next question to residents, and this goes for anyone, not just our guest today, but folks who have been on the call for a while, who have connections, families. Rebuilding comes with a flood of outside perspectives. As we focus on protecting Altadena's cultural future, what feels most important in shaping a community-driven plan?
Can you repeat the question again, Christopher, please?
Of course.
Could you put it in the chat too?
Yes, of course. I love that one. Yes, yes. I'll repeat it out loud and I'll post it in the chat. That was a good one. Hold on a second. Let me just see, make sure I'm posting it right. There you go. Rebuilding comes with a flood of outside perspectives. As we focus on protecting Altadena's cultural future, what feels most important in shaping a community-driven plan? Or if I take away the word community-driven plan, what feels most important in shaping an authentic Altadena? Go for it, Jeff.
It's interesting you asked that question, because lately the more I talk to people about this, the more I remember that trust is the most important thing. If we can't trust each other, then we can't move forward. So how are we going to build trust on a quick timeline? And it's by having conversations and just doing small trustworthy things. Like if I tell you I'm going to be on a webinar on Wednesday at 6, I'll be there, right? Just small things like that, just keeping to our word and really being in contact with people. So my answer is building trust with as many people as possible as soon as possible.
I love that. That's truth right there. Kella.
Can I say something?
Go, Kelly.
Hi, I'm Kelly Peterson, and I actually live in Mount Washington. And 2007, we were having a celebration for my niece, and my neighbor ran to my house and said, "I think your house is on fire." And within 20 minutes, my house was a 70% loss. Because of the narrow roads and I was up a mountain, the fire truck couldn't get there in time. And so I lost my home. And we went through a lot in that process. You know, we went through the crooked contractor, the insurance adjuster that ripped us off, planning checks that took forever. I think we were in foreclosure 4 times. And we actually, Stephen, had a Sears Kit house. That's what that house was originally. We were only the second owners. It took us 4.5 years, but we were finally able to rebuild. And we learned a lot in that process. And yeah, 4.5 years. Mount Washington specific plan, it was a nightmare. And we found out the fire was started by where DWP wires entered our house. So it was actually the fault of the city that so from that we learned builder. And so we became our own contractors and we learned a lot through that process. And what I'm here to do is to be a sense of support. And I think the way that you keep the authenticity of the community is by doing exactly what you're doing, by having a very clear vision for Altadena. And I think this collective is phenomenal. I love the clarity of it. I love the sense of engagement around it. I think as long as you stay true to this process, it's going to be fine. And you will need help from the outside. So people from outside the community, we're here to support your vision. And I think that's the most important thing.
Thanks.
Thank you for that. Kayla and Allison have their hands raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to share a thought that ties back to the trust factor. One of the first things that I thought about when, the fires were still raging was, who do people trust when they're trying to come back from all of this? Because they're going to be, people are coming at everybody from every which way you can imagine. Commercials with law firms and just, I mean, everybody. It's a political thing, the mayor's office. Oh, we're going to do this. The governor, and it's a lot of noise to people who are not familiar with this world that so many of us are. And the thought that came to mind, it was mentioned briefly at the beginning, was a meeting that happened with Habitat for Humanity. And one of the people who's on the board of Habitat, I called him like 2 days after the fire started and said, everybody knows who Habitat for Humanity is. That's a trusted name. Everybody knows what they do. Jimmy Carter's name was attached to it. Talk about somebody trustworthy, right? And I said, if there was a place that people could go that they know that Habitat is not ripping people off, right? That's not their game. There's a certain amount of sweat equity in the model that they do, and I think taking advantage of all the people in the community who want to help others. It's not just the family, but people from everywhere want to help. The model that Habitat has for building, particularly for those who are underinsured or undercapitalized, seems like the type of model that could be the center of everything, so that through partnering with Habitat, architects and groups like NOMA could have, connections to Habitat. When somebody comes to them and says, I'm looking for, help, I need an architect. Okay, here's who you talk to at this organization. Here's who you talk to at this organization. I know that is of interest to Habitat. I don't know if they have figured out yet how they could play in that field, or if, if people will kind of let them be the lead, because, you got Rick Caruso out there saying only I can save everyone. So when you look at a possibility with a name that can be trusted, I think a lot of people would take a deep breath saying, Okay, well, I know who Habitat is, right? I don't know individual architects or whatever, but if Habitat said, talk to this group, people are gonna take that other breath that we were talking about earlier. So I don't know if there's a way that that meeting that happened earlier, whether there's a follow-up on that, and we can continue in that path and how we look at the way back. But I think that they would be an extraordinary partner in this effort.
Thanks, Allison.
Yeah.
Chris, didn't you have?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and then Kayla, you could jump in there afterwards. I actually just met with Habitat for Humanity literally a few hours ago. A couple of folks there, a person who's a leader of their community engagement for the LA office, and the LA branch. So Habitat for Humanity they have different branches or affiliates. The LA affiliate, while they will provide support for the Eaton Fire and Altadena, it's the San Gabriel affiliate that will likely have to provide support and will be the go-to location for Habitat for Humanity. So what I was told, and I'm being honest, is that I think the expectation is that the San Gabriel Habitat for Humanity is probably not going to have the. Thanks for posting that, story. I was just going to get to that too. The San Gabriel affiliate, it may not have the cultural competency and the trust with community members that the LA branch might have, just because of the way they're structured, maybe the folks who are running it, et cetera, et cetera. But I think Allison, regardless of that, Allison brings up a really great point, is that there are, for those who don't know, Habitat for Humanity, their model, and I have notes here, so if anyone wants, I can share it. Basically, their model works like they actually, even previous to separate from fires, they have a first time home buyers program in which you have to do a course and you have to do training. And then as a part of that process, which Allison was referring to, you then more or less have to do a certain amount of sweat equity. So, either you're helping to build your own home or you're helping to build someone else's home, or you're participating in their affiliate programs, working at their office or off hours. They even give credit if the kids have got really good grades, or it's a whole system that they essentially do together. And I think what we can do as a part of the coalition is make stronger ties. And I did bring some of this up to them, but we can follow up for a few of the folks who are interested, is make stronger ties when folks are underinsured or just don't have the ability, but are interested in rebuilding and doing other things. That is when they can be funneled to a Habitat for Humanity, but also working with Habitat for Humanity to bring the cultural lens that folks are talking about here. Because what Habitat for Humanity is going to do is they are going to basically, Habitat for Humanity designs their own homes internally. So they have models of things that are created. The only thing they do is they might go to a KTYG, which is a large architecture firm, to give them some ideas. But that's more or less how they do it. And then they work with builders who go out and build the homes. So as a result of all that, it's a streamlined process, but it's not meant for everyone in a way. So, I think there's some gaps even in their process that we might be able to provide insight into, in order to kind of make sure that that authenticity stays. And I don't think people want just cookie cutter houses.
No.
They want to have some culture and some representation as well.
And I think that's their current model, but that doesn't mean that their model in this extraordinary situation can't change.
Rubbish.
And that's the conversation I had with the board member.
That's good. Kayla. Kayla.
Sorry. Hi. I wanted to kind of talk about also preserving the cultural piece. And one thing that for me that always stands out is having meetings like this, but on a town hall forum. Like, a lot of folks don't want to be talked at. They want to be talked with. They want to be heard. Like, how can we make sure you don't have to have no title behind your name. You just are an Altadena resident who's going through it, and I got this going on. This is what I need, and this is what I want done, and this is what I want to see in my community. I think having town halls is important. And also another thing, I work with youth, and I just really believe that they have powerful minds. So what does it look like including young people into these spaces? What does it look like hearing from them? What do they want to see? Because that's what we're really building, is what an Altadena for them, you know? So I think that's important. And also just having like having space for joy. Like we can have these town halls, but what does it look like to have like a little block party? Like me and Ashley 2 weeks ago we went to my Tribe Rises event, and they talked about what was going on,
I'm
but
going to go to Kaiser. They sent me a text. The
found
medicine
joy
that
with
was
each
not
other.
there is there now.
That's what I think is important, is us figuring out how we can bring young folks in the space and how can we be inclusive with everybody.
I'm sorry, the brother who's on the iPhone, could you mute? Well, okay, so Christopher did an exercise with us, and as a co-moderator, I'm going to take the liberty. We're not going to stretch our arms right now, but I'm going to say something, and I want you to repeat this with me. Nothing about us,
Nothing about us.
without us,
Without us,
is for us.
for us.
For us.
Nothing about us, without us, is for us.
Nothing about us.
Without
Without
us.
Of
us,
us is
For
is
for us.
for us. That's a mantra. And
Love it.
if we keep that spirit right here, we'll be all right.
Okay.
So I love the direction that we're going with this, and we do want to give everybody an opportunity to speak, but we also want to be mindful. I did see like a not so sweet comment in the chat that there are so many different ways that we can rebuild this community, and just in general, like not just the structures, right? There's so many ways we can go about getting the structures back up. But if people are not going to receive or be able to feel like they're going to have the culture that was there and that was already cultivated, then why would they want to rebuild and stay here? So part of our thing is to get to that. Kayla, what does that mean to you? Susan, Dory, like whoever, Jeffrey, like what does that mean? And how can we make sure that comes back? Because we're going to build you something. You're going to be able to live in it. It could be amazing. It could be the same style. It could be a new style. Like it's going to be, really good fire protection materials now. We're going to bring you into the new millennia with that. But are we going to help create and curate what you had? Like, how can we do that? And I feel like this conversation is about you helping us to understand how to do that. Like I said before, we have the expertise to put a house back on the lot that your parents or that you have been misplaced in. But how can we facilitate this other piece, which you so love so much about Altadena? That is what we are trying to get to.
Elitris, there are things that transcend the physical.
Yeah.
And I was speaking earlier, I think Gabrielle was with me on this thing today, about the lessons we learned through urban renewal and the removal of Black neighborhoods. The removal of Black neighborhoods by federal highways. Those neighborhoods and those communities were fractured, shattered, and people went all over the place.
Yes.
They formed a huge diaspora. But on Saturdays and Sundays, they came back to that place for church, for the barbershop, for the hair salon, because that home beacon can never be taken away.
Yeah.
But what remains without that physical reality are these deep connections between the community that existed the day before the fires happened and will not be destroyed by distance, time, or anything else. So I think we have to hold on to that as a core understanding that we are connected through the ether, through the Lord, however you want to say it, and whatever happening, because we can't really predict it. I don't know if we can literally answer your question, Elitris. We can have hopes and dreams about it, but whatever the case may be, the connections that we've enjoyed and relished are up to us to maintain and continue into the future.
Agreed.
Dory and then Jeffrey.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to sort of speak to kind of like I think the second part, which is the community engagement. And one of the things that I'm noting is like, again, there's the big meetings and then there's like the one-on-ones that are happening conversations. And one of the things I think like Christopher and I have talked about is like, what are the ways in which we can use kind of an interactive design process, right? To bring together 20, 25 people, which means we can be kind of mobile where people are, but also adapt it to, again, because it's interactive, we can adapt it to, again, like a group of older people, we can adapt it to youth, because it seems like to be able to create a community driven plan for this rebuilding. And the most successful place in some ways that seems to happen was in um, New Zealand, because the rebuild was based on Maori principles, like indigenous Maori principles. So like nothing could move forward without the community engagement. And it seems like trying to in some ways find the resources to be able to support that 20 people, 20, 25 people, right, of the community getting paid to participate. Because one of the things that I find as a weakness in the sustainability of the efforts is that like everyone is like, let's do it pro bono. And again, as a Black person, believing in the Emancipation Proclamation, I was like, Black and brown folks, we should not be doing anything for free. But it's also part of the sustainability of the efforts, because people, community members are rebuilding their lives. Again, as individual professionals, like we have to eat and pay bills because we don't have the same structures of like real wealth, right, to sort of sit back. So I guess I wonder in the kind of conversations with the group, how we can begin to knit together these like 20 design charrettes, right? Future design charrettes of 20, 25 residents to begin to knit together like a very tangible vision of what they would like to have as part of like their future. And then how do we in some ways credentialize the deep existing knowledge in the community itself around what they want from equity, what they want from sustainability. Itself, like we've talked about, again, Christopher and I, about like the Just Communities network and framework. And I guess I'm just wondering like where that exists within the sort of efforts of this group.
Anybody want to speak to that? Matt, if you're around, or Josh, Gabrielle, Drake.
Well, part of it starts on Saturday, getting a pulse. But I do agree with you having some pointed sessions where we really drill down on what this is going to look like, and people are participating in something that's clearly documented. And it's a series of them, because we need the thoughts and energy of many different people at different stages, right, of how they will experience Altadena, the new Altadena, and what they want that to look like. I really want the elders to chime in, because they really created something magical for us to build on, and I don't want to forget those things. And I want to make sure that they're carried forward. But the young people, they have their own idea, and we need to hear from them too about like what do they want it to be. So I like I said, I think we start that and then we expand and it grows and it gets grander and grander and more specific.
This is Drake. I'm not saying this is something we should do or not do, but I do know lessons learned from.
Drake, who are you?
Uh, my name is Drake Dillon. I'm an architect, and I'm also one of the past national president for NOMA as well. And I'm also was involved with Destination Crenshaw, Gabrielle Bullock, and myself. And I think one of the lessons learned from that project, and I'm sure other projects as well, is that somehow getting the community to trust you and feel comfortable is critical. And you do that by having town meetings. The town meetings are very, very important to get them to come and to be part of the process. And I think someone said it's not so much you preaching to them, but you're listening. And therefore they feel that connection and you build that trust. We had happened to have an advisory council committee, and the committee was deliberately made up of seniors, youth, entertainers, artists, curators. We had the gamut from the community to represent the community. So, but that was deliberate. And again, I think those things are critical when it comes to trying to get that trust from the community.
Hello.
Go ahead, Egerton, and then we'll go to Muriel.
And then
Everybody,
also
good
the
evening.
committee was also paid.
That's important.
Because I think Gory mentioned that.
That's important.
Yeah.
Egerton, you want to go next?
Yes, please. Good evening, everyone. Today is my very first time I was just invited. I just want to give her ears. But I've heard certain comments that I just want to give a small input. I'm not sure many people on this panel is from Altadena. I have several houses in Altadena. If you take a look at Altadena, Altadena to me, I live on Wapello. Even on Athens, I have a house on Athens. There is no place in Altadena that looks like a track house. So what are they talking about? Habitat for Humanity, bringing track house, all the house look alike. That's not Altadena that I know. We have to be mindful of that. Altadena has been a unique place where every houses look different. So Rick Caruso talking about all this bunch of nonsense to bring all type of developer to come in to change Altadena to the way they want it to. Please, let's be mindful of that. Unless the community said, okay, now Altadena want to look like Pasadena or anywhere else, bring track houses and bring all this. No, please. Altadena has been unique. Each houses are different. So please, I believe, let's have that type of footprint again. I know some people might be underinsured. If they want certain help from Habitat, okay. But I don't believe it should be like a track houses, all the houses look alike. Then the uniqueness of Altadena is gone. That's all I wanted to say. I'm sorry. I think the passion just get the best of me.
Thanks, Egerton. I think a lot of folks resonate with that. Go ahead, Muriel. Thanks, Egerton.
Basically my comment is right alongside his. Altadena is very different. I even just Googled right now because I was like, Lord, like, was there even a Starbucks in Altadena? So that shows you how different the city is. We weren't regular track homes, cookie cutter homes. We weren't the norm with all of these different, big corporations set up everywhere. It was full of mom and pops. We had small little coffee shops. We had small little taco shops or things that have been there for decades. And so we're hearing a lot of big corporations wanting to come in, as he said, and put up these high-rise condos or change the community as a whole and completely flip it upside down, which would deter the original people who were in Altadena to then go move out. And that's what we don't want. So as much as we possibly can, just kind of keep it, but better, as I said, just more sustainable, more eco-friendly, easier on electric or whatever it is, fireproofing things, but still keep it Altadena in its core.
Thanks, Muriel. And I see AK Mickey is going to speak next. But before we go to AK Mickey, we'll go to Allison, then we'll go to Sagoon. Before we do that, I do want to make a quick comment about Dory's comment on, and this is for some of the other organizers in the call. We've heard of My Tribe, Rise. What organizations are Altadena? Because we all know we have these different factions right now of folks doing good work and with good intentions. but do we feel like there's one or two groups that really have everyone's attention? And what are ways in which we can work with those groups to amplify what's happening here and amplifying their message? Does anybody have any thoughts on that before we go to our other folks with their hands raised?
I do. I'm James Hughes. I'm an architect. I'm one of those smaller groups, and I was watching Steve speak at a KCRW event recently and was really inspired by you guys. And I think this is a loud voice and a strong voice, and I love what you guys have built here. And I think connecting with similar groups is going to be critical to help move this initiative too. And I would love to offer whatever services, and we're a group of architects and designers as well. We're called Angeli's Recovery Collective, and we just want to offer that support wherever, in whatever ways we can to you guys. So just feel free to reach out, and I'll continue to call in as I can.
Thanks, James. Anyone else want to speak to that? I'm gonna jump a little bit to IO.
Hey, I'm IO. I also wanted to jump in and say that we have Postfire, which I know a lot of people are like, is that a brand? What is that? It's a survivors network. We have about 1,000 members at the moment. So if you guys we want to support in any way that we possibly can to get information straight to people, but also to get people's opinions back out on what they really want. So our goal is to make a way for people to communicate en masse so that they really have strength in numbers and they can have collective bargaining over materials and stuff like that. So I'll put the link in the chat, but as you guys want to use us, we're available to help and support in any way and be a conduit to resources or people or whatever.
Thank you.
Thanks, IO. Please share information. I see you again. Please share your information in chat if you can. Thanks. Anyone else want to share before we jump to AKA Mickey?
May I share?
Of course.
I'm Amparo and I'm with the UCLA History Group. We are, some of us will be there on Saturday, so you'll folks will get to meet us. We are former teachers, all of us, and that's my dog. And this is why I can't put on my camera, because I'm dealing with all these crazy dogs right now.
Hello? Did we lose her?
Oh, I think the dogs took
I'm
over.
Dog is in.
The dog's got me. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Sorry. Yeah, I'm elder care and other people care and then dog care today. What we're hoping to do is to develop sort of a survey that we can bring to the community and ask people what they want. And so I think at some point when we're ready, we will start asking you for some of those questions. But most importantly, we like to support with recording some of those oral histories. And if we can get a grant, we would love to train young people to do intergenerational oral history so that young people in the community can interview their elders and interview family members about what's going on in the community. So we're a nonprofit like you guys, and we're trying to write some grants to build some of this community information. And so if you start thinking about some ideas, right? If you can start, so that's why I put it in here. You can think of questions, you can think of ideas. I'll put my email in the chat as well, and then reach out to me. I think for me, the comment about joy and not forgetting the joy, but also preserving the community and the stories from children, right? And teachers are going through a lot right now, are going to be really important. So I'm really excited to participate and to learn from all of you. I love what is going on here. So you'll see more of my colleagues, but two of my colleagues have kids. So it's hard for them during dinner time to join us, but I'm sure they will in the coming days.
Thank you so much. Let's go to Mickey.
Hi, everybody. This is Michael Dory. So I probably left my screen name up from a sorority meeting, so I'll apologize for that.
Oh, AKA. Okay, now we got it.
So
Go ahead.
yes. I just was jumping in
Laura,
and
go ahead.
thank you. I was just jumping in to say that along the lines of having meetings at a town hall, to have more of an interactive visioning session where people can do some like modeling um, is a great way to kind of help capture the feedback of what people in Altadena want to see as they rebuild. And that physical touch, the actual placement, I think it really kind of spurs the thought process more so than just the strictly verbal exercise. If we were to do this, I would avoid the use of the term design charrette, because that's kind of somewhat off-putting to everyday people. So just kind of a more of an interactive session that the people can come participate and physically show what they want to see in their community. That's it.
Thank you. Allison, you want to clarify comments from before?
I do. First of all, I'm gonna say, hey, Michael, I'm gonna give you a hard time with that AKA stuff because there's more deltas in this room than there are AKA. So there. I
Excuse
digress.
you, but we won't get into that right now.
All right, I listen.
So the only comment that I wanted to make was just to clarify that when I was talking about, the infrastructure of Habitat for Humanity, I was not talking about the design and what they do. You can use the infrastructure of how they bring people together to build and still build in the style of the community. So I wanted to not go down that rabbit hole of thinking everything's got to be cookie cutter, the way Habitat does it. That was not what I was saying at all. This is a huge problem, and it's going to take thinking way outside the box. And so let's forget the box that already exists and work to create a box that fits this situation, because this is not a typical onesie twosie issue to build homes that have been destroyed. This is community. And those elements of community that went with the design and the look of Altadena are important to the rebuild effort, and it can still be done with that same type of infrastructure and putting, people's hands on the work that want to help, where it can offset the cost. And I think it's a way that you can build on the momentum that Southern California has right now to help people come back from this. That's the point I was making. That whole thing about the tract homes, that was not me. So I don't want anybody attaching that to me. Don't misquote me. We lawyers, we don't like that. So that's all I had.
I think there's a collective understanding from everyone to call, from what Egerton shared to what Kyla shared and Marielle, that not only is Altadena not for sale, it's also not for losing its cultural erasure. I think that's also important. Is that the community deserves to be acknowledged and have the cultural identity that it has. Obviously, there's no one size fits all, and I think that's just the reality where we are. I think the other thing that we haven't really spoken about that I'll bring up as we kind of wrap up here with 7:30. If there's any last comments, I'll open it up. But I think it's really important for this coalition to also make sure that we work with our indigenous neighbors and many other folks in this area to really understand what other practices we should be putting into our rebuild. And the rebuild isn't just residents and folks; it's also homeowners, business owners, and other folks as well. Many folks who were day laborers in Altadena no longer have jobs that they can go back to. Many folks who are housekeepers, many folks who provided whatever service in that part of Altadena, it's now not there. So between that, when we think about our immigrant population, especially as we look to the next 4 years, with deportation is a real threat to the livelihood of many of the folks who have been impacted by the fire as well. So we have that double kind of threat. We also have to think about the kind of reparations that we talk about with Black and Brown folks, the reparations and the acknowledgement of the lands that we live on, and understanding what, in addition to tying together the kind of cultural knowledge of Altadena? What are the indigenous practices that also have to be tied to our homes to make sure that we're attending to our properties so that we aren't creating fire hazards on our own properties as well? Because one of the things that happened as a part of this, and for folks who have, you know, when you go through Altadena in its current situation, it's quite remarkable, quite frankly, because there are homes that have burned, unfortunately, and there are homes that look like they should have burned and they did not, and it doesn't make any sense. But part of the challenge here is one property burns and then the next house burns, and that becomes fuel. So creating and understanding that our communities are now tied to each other in this rebuild in the future of it, even more so than we realize that our neighbors can be our neighbors and they can also be the fuel for our house burning down is quite a dramatic kind of approach to it. However, I think we have to think about what does it look like to rebuild. A lot of the trees and a lot of the vegetation that's there now is going to be unfortunately cut down because it's no longer it's now a threat to the environment. So now how do we not see ourselves as being a threat to the environment by rebuilding? How do we do that harmoniously? So I'll just kind of, that's the last thing I'll say. Is there any other comments as we wrap up the conversation here in terms of, I think just the things that kind of stuck out here is that I think we're last comments is culture and keeping that, but also making sure that, as folks have said from Altadena Rising, making sure that we are consistently checking in where people are at so that this is not a 0 to 100 process. This is a kind of A, B, C, D kind of restart and allow folks to kind of pick the letters of the part of time that they're accessible, but allowing ourselves to be accessible as well and building that practice in there as well. What are the practices in terms of design and build, as Allison was kind of bringing up, to allow for the sweat equity and the community equity to help rebuild? I think a lot of folks throughout Los Angeles, not just the folks on this call, would be willing to rebuild some homes and do volunteering. What does that look like? Who can be a part of that process, that it's not just Habitat for Humanity? Who are the other folks that we can connect to who are builders who want to be a part of that kind of process? It takes a village literally to rebuild this. And also just thinking about what other resources we need to have for folks is kind of some of the major takeaways. And then lastly, the vision plan. If Altadena City Council or the LA County isn't going to commission or pay for a vision or strategic plan for Altadena, somebody needs to do it. So I think if it needs to come from the community getting a grant and doing kind of what Dory said, or some of the things that we're going to do, or we're doing community design conversations and putting that together, then that might be something that we need to start pushing the buttons on folks about, because there needs to be a larger plan that's beyond just the individual homeowner returning to their home. There needs to be a community that is also restored as a part of that process. With that being said, is there any lasting comments before I pass it off to Josh?
Hey, Chris, can you hear me? This is Charles Bryan.
Hey, Charles, go for it.
How you doing? Okay, I just want to add to your comment in regards to the fire and neighbors' houses contributing to another neighbor's house. This wasn't that type of fire, and I can assure you, because remember, this fire was driven by 80 to 100 mile an hour winds. So it was like a blowtorch. It doesn't matter. The nearest house to my house is about 100 yards. So it
Yeah.
had nothing to do with that house caught on fire and caused mine to caught on fire. The sparks could have come from all the way from miles away. And if you look at it, you'll see that everything is burned. I had wood mulch all over the yard, and it's a big yard. It burned the wood mulch. It burned the trees. It burned the bushes, and much of it is destroyed. But it wasn't because, okay, this. And the other thing about this type of fire, it's not going to matter what building materials you use. Now we'll do our best. You know, I'm an architect too. We'll do our best to provide the most resistant materials that we can, whether it's lightweight concrete, tile, metal roofs, or whatever that will help. A dual glazed glass with tempered glass on the outside. All those things will help, but they're not going to prevent these houses from being burnt in a fire like this. I just wanted to add that comment.
Amen, Charles.
Thank you.
That was a freak.
Well said. Well said.
So we definitely want to thank everybody for joining us tonight, especially the residents and the other community organizers. We're all in this together, and we're going to have an all together now community event, and we're going to hear from Joshua Foster, who is leading the efforts on that on Saturday. You are all absolutely invited. Double down on your invitations. It will be an escalated, amazing version of what we had tonight. We just really want to hone in on that cultural piece, listening, storytelling. We'll hear from Josh a little bit more. Josh?
All right. Didn't know I was about to speak, but
Yeah.
glad I'm still here. But hi everybody. Really looking forward to you all making it on Saturday. Just like Leachers mentioned, we really want to have this space to be able to have in-person listening focused community event. So the purpose of it is to have different stations to be able to allow people to share what it is that they've gone through, what it is that they're going through, what it is that they want everyone to know about their community, the different cultural aspects of how they want to push forward with this process, and the things that we want to make sure that as we go through the rebuilding resources and different processes that we've mentioned so far, that we're able to capture really what the residents and the community members are focused on. And so that's going to be done through a number of different formats, through video story recording, through mural designing, through different ways that we can have listening sessions that has people taking notes that we will create community reports based on. So there's a number of creative ways that we're looking forward to be able to support the community this coming Saturday and learn more, so that we can move forward with the different that the coalition has coming forward. There will be free food. I know that's what draws a lot of people, so there will be food. So please come for that, if nothing else. But we really want to hear everyone's voice. It looks like Alicia's just put the Eventbrite link there, so you can have the exact location. And we're looking forward to having everyone show up and be a part of this event.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Steve, you want
Josh.
to close us out? Is
I
Steve
think
there?
I think Steve is gone, so
Oh, okay. You close.
I'll close out. That's it. That's a wrap. Thank you all for being here. I want to just give a special thanks to Ash, Taylor, Kayla, Jeff, other folks who have Marielle, other folks, IL, Dory, and many others of you who spoke up today. Look forward to seeing you all on Saturday. Jeff, also, please, we'll send this recording to you. So whoever took the recording today, please go ahead and send it over to Jeff. Jeff, if you could put your email address in the chat, I also can provide it to folks as well. Y'all have a good evening. God bless, and take care of yourselves.